What is up, everyone? JD here. Hope you're all doing well today. Today, I'm really excited to bring you a review of a pair of knives that Dave from Sat2 Dave sent over to me to check out. And yes, you did hear correctly, a pair of knives, which is going to make sense here in a minute why it's a pair. So first up, I am going to bring out the Grant Gripper SG built gripper, which is more custom, and I'm going to bring out the production Brassbrigade Grant gripper that is made by Detent. So what I'll do is I'm going to go a little bit slower, but I'll go through the specs and then we'll weigh. We'll do size comparisons. I'm going to try my best to do top to bottom for the size comparisons. I'll make sure that I put the smaller ones on the top, and then I'll give you my thoughts and impressions on each. So having said that, let's go ahead and jump into specs. So we're going to start with the SG variant, which has a 3.5-inch LMAX hollow ground blade. It has 4.5-inch handmade titanium frag scales. Overall length is 8 inches. Did not weigh the knife. We'll do that together. And then the Detent production variant of the Grant gripper from Brassbrigade has a 3.5-inch M390 hollow ground blade, 5-inch titanium frag handle. Overall length is 8.5 inches. So we'll go ahead and close these up and move them to the side and give some quick weights on the two knives because there's clearly a size difference between the two. So first we'll do the production variant of the Grant gripper. 5.7 ounces. Not surprised there, but it actually carries the weight really well for the size of the knife. Now let's do the SG variant, which is 4.3 ounces. Much lighter overall. All right, let's go ahead and get the scale out of the way, and then we'll do some size comparisons. All right, let's lay these back out here and try to make sure I'm giving enough room to be able. This one definitely a little bit smaller for me, so I got to be very careful when I'm deploying it, because if my hand's on that lock bar, it is not opening. All right, first and foremost, we'll bring out the Demco AD 20.5 for the smaller knife comparison. As you can see, both of these are just a little bit bigger. Well, the production is a lot bigger. The SG is just a little bit bigger. And then we'll bring out the Spyderco Shaman, which we'll put down here. Hopefully I got this right. Actually, let's go ahead and slide everything up just a touch to get it on the screen. As you can see, the Shaman is roughly about the same. Actually, I think the production is just a little bit bigger. I had to look over top of the camera. It was hard to see, but a little bit more tail here. And you got a little bit more length on blade and a little bit more cutting edge on the Shaman. Actually, it might be, no, just a touch, like just a touch more on the Shaman. But you can see back here, you have more handle length on the production variant. So we'll go ahead and move these out of the way, and then we'll go ahead and bring out the bug out, put that up at the top so you can see it next to the SG gripper, and then we'll bring out the Hogue SIG K320 down here with the production by Detent. So hopefully this reference is kind of helping you, even seeing the two against each other. Hopefully that is showing you the difference in size. The SG is definitely more close in size to the bug out, even though it's still a little bit bigger. Last but not least, we'll bring out a sub 3-inch budget knife, which is going to be the Kubi KU321, and then we'll bring out the Buck 110. And you can see here, maybe bring it up a little bit closer, the 8.5-inch is almost exactly the same length as the Buck 110. So hopefully those have helped you from a size reference. Let's do profile comparison against the production variant first, and then I'll close both of them up though, because actually I can teeter-totter between the two, I think, pretty quickly to try to keep this relatively quick. So we'll put it up here against the Kubi Royal, and you can see the Royal and the production are the same thickness, and then you can see the SG is much thinner. All right, let's go ahead and keep that out. We'll bring out the Demco and compare the Demco. The Demco just a little bit thinner than the SG. I'm just going to call that the custom going forward. And then the production, you can see that the Demco is much thinner. A little bit harder to pick up because of the black there, but hopefully you're able to see that pretty well. And then last but not least, the bug out, which is also going to be, should be thinner than both. Let's check out the custom. Custom, I would say that's close enough to call that even, to be honest. All right, let me go ahead and jump into my thoughts and impressions of these knives. So first, I want to talk a little bit more about the custom. So the custom SG knives in Indonesia is the manufacturer. It is, again, as I mentioned, handmade, and it's really quite impressive. I mean, there's a little tiny bit of offset happening right here between the frag patterns and where it lines up with the actual side frag, but just in that one spot it's a little bit off. It's a little bit closer to that one. The other thing that I'll note here is you have a full length as opposed to a 3/4 length on the custom here from SG Knives. You have a nice brass pivot collar, which gives it a little bit of pop, and then I'm assuming these are flat head, but it could be proprietary. That was the only thing I couldn't find. And then I actually like the milled titanium pocket clip on the Best Tech a little bit more than the titanium stamped. The reason I say that is because I can feel that in hand, whereas the milled, I actually know that it's there because I can feel that it's there, but it's not discomforting or poking at me in any way, shape, or form. I really think the acid etch washed blade has a nice patina look to it. This knife looks like it's used and abused and worn and old, and it could be. It could be. I don't know, but it looks really good. I also love the fact that this frag goes the full length of the spine, even with the 3/4 back spacer. Really love that it goes the length of the full spine. I think that is a really cool look. I think this has a very unique look, but functionally it works really, really well. Now, for the ergos, the jimping going all the way through is going to make sure that anyone's hand size needs are met for that jimping. And if you have smaller, medium to smaller hands, I think the SG really is going to have you locked in. This is going to feel really good, and it's going to carry very nicely as well. With the production variant, I find that I actually favor this because even choked back, I still feel like, because it has the thicker scales, the thicker geometry on the scales, and then a little bit taller on the scales, this, for my large hands, feels more comfortable in hand. I'm gonna move that to the side because I don't want to be hitting Dave's knives. Really nice, very comfortable. And then because of the larger size, unlike the custom, you have a full forward finger choil dedicated to being able to use this, and that just really gets this to lock into the large hands really nicely. I like that a lot. Even, you know, I do go past the tip a little bit, but it still has the jimping there, so I can do the detailed work. And then when I want to use the tip, wrapping in here just feels really comfortable, and draw cuts, utility cuts are very natural with this knife. Really works for me very, very nicely. Again, the only difference is that this one's a little bit smaller, but I think it still would work for you with large hands, and you can choke up onto the rounded part here to do any type of detailed work that you might need to do. Even if you wanted to come up a little bit here, you just need to be careful and mindful of the fact that you don't want to do any motions that are going to cause you to slide forward on the knife. And again, you can choke up here. It's not a dedicated forward finger choil, but it is flat enough to realistically land on there and do some power cutting. But I would imagine after a little bit of time, if you're doing that task for a long enough period, it's going to start to feel a little uncomfortable. The other thing that I wanted to talk about here too, the Detent is a lot stronger on the custom. Here, I actually have a little bit of an issue also with the larger hands accessing that lock bar. It is a little bit tight for me with larger hands to get into. But again, medium or smaller hands might not be an issue, but that detent, very heavy, which is equating to very snappy action. No matter how you're deploying the knife, it is just going to fly out. You're not going to fail this in any way whatsoever. My one complaint is that if you try to light switch and you try to, bring your finger across and it's coming quickly, it's going to pinch you in between that full length backspacer and the blade itself. So I actually did that the first time I deployed it. I wanted to kind of push and then kind of leave my finger in there, and I ended up getting pinched. And, it was enough of a reminder to know not to do it like that again on this knife. The other thing as well, I just did it. Probably too fast for y'all to see it, but I just did it there talking about it. When you drop, you need to be very careful. I just felt it hit here. I'm surprised it didn't break skin. Thankfully, it didn't. There is a certain position you can be in to actually catch the back of that blade. If you come down too low, it is going to drop right on the meat of the finger if you have bigger hands. So those are just two of the complaints outside of the pocket clip that I have with this. Outside of that, the detent feels good. It has about a little bit more than 50% lockup. I think it is a carbidized, does not have a lock bar insert. It is just on the titanium, so I'm assuming it is carbidized for that titanium, so that will work. Man, it does feel like it landed on the skin, but I am not bleeding, so I guess I'm okay. Now, with the production variant, they not only eliminated it by doing a 3/4 backspacer, and I don't know if that was a change in the design from the time that he had the custom being done versus the production variant. But here you can leave your finger there and you're okay. It's not going to pinch in any way, shape, or form. You can do the light switch where you just completely keep your finger off everything except the blade, or again, you can rest it on the top of the backspacer and you're going to be fine. The detent on this feels a little better tuned, but I think that has something to do with the fact that you now have the lock bar insert here, which keeps the over travel from happening, and that is what is engaging with the spine of the knife. The knife has gotten smoother and smoother as I've operated with it. Did a pocket check recently, and when I had posted on Instagram that I had been carrying these, other Grant gripper owners were pointing out to the fact that the tolerances are so tight that you get a little bit of rubbing in certain spots depending on how you're deploying the knife. So this one here is happening when you're doing the reverse flick and it's pushing the blade up ever so slightly and just ever so slightly catching against the scale. And then here, when you're doing the thumb flick, what it's doing is it's catching on that cutout right there for the relief cut, and it is just, again, ever so slightly rubbing. But as you use the knife, it's going to mark and scar, and all that's going to blend in eventually anyway. As you can see, it's already started in some spots where the knife has been cut with. You can see just a little bit of wear out on the edge where that's happening. And if it really bothered you, I mean, grab some stones, throw them in a plastic container, and bam, you can have a stone wash blade, and I think that's going to look really, really, really good. Alternative recommendations. I mean, there's a couple of knives that come to mind. If you like the smaller production variant, and you know those are sold out and quite expensive, but something that'll get you kind of close is actually going to be the Wee Roxy 3, as some of the padding from my container falls out. That is going to get you a really nice utility cut. It's going to get you unique styling, and it's going to give you very good ergos, a little bit better lock bar access, and a little bit safer fall there because it has that forward finger choil at that size that's dedicated to the knife. That's going to get you in that price point. Taiwan option is going to be the one that I did for the size comparison. That's going to be the Demco 80-20.5. They're roughly about the same thinness overall. Now, as far as the larger size one, I had it out here earlier. You can either go with the Shaman for the Grant gripper as a US alternative option, Or if you really got lucky, you can sign up for notifications and you can pick up the Tucson TS270. That's going to give you very similar. It's going to be a little bit more curvy and the aesthetics are going to be very different. It's not going to get you that same aesthetics, but for $110, 14C28N titanium frame lock, very smooth, good action. They don't look like this when they come from the factory. That is a custom ano, but it is going to have just that plain stainless steel, Lord have mercy, titanium handle, and then it's got that micro milling going on, which I think looks really good as well. So just a couple of recommendations for alternative options, both, you know, Chinese and not Chinese. I recommend this knife. I do appreciate and like the custom. I think it is very cool and very well made, but for the money and my budget, I would be recommending the Bestech production variant of the gripper. I like the size of it. I like the build quality, the function, the slight revision to the relief that they give you back here in the back for that flipper. Very fidgetable. The ceramic bearings on here just feel a little bit smoother than the custom, and I don't know how much that custom has been used. So there's a little bit of a caveat with this recommendation, because if it's been used a lot, you know, and I'm assuming some of that is stonewash and some of that is use, but if this is a little bit older, it's been handled and used, you know, that could be part of it. That really heavy detent, a little strong for me on the smaller knife, especially because I have less to hang on to, and I got to be very careful with deploying it with the flipper tab versus reverse flicking and front flipping it. So those two actions are fine. The access to the lock bar is just, it's a little snugger for me, and I like the larger knife having more relief cut out of it and a little bit easier to get to. And honestly, I know this is probably because the blade is coated, but the drop is just a little bit more controlled. I'm able to time it with no issues. And again, I really just like the production variant just a little bit more. And I mean just a tiny bit more for the larger hands. So let me know your thoughts. What are you thinking about this knife? I'm very grateful Dave sent them over, because I probably would not be getting to these anytime soon. There's just other knives that are a little bit higher up on the list, but having said that, because he sent them over, I actually am going to steer you towards this knife because it is a solid pickup. Either variant, if you have the money to go out and get the SG Knives custom variant of it and you like the smaller size and the carry, and I'm sure there's probably some customization that you can get done, wait out for that. Hopefully he brings back different colorways and different variants of the Grant gripper for the production run, because that's the one that I really like, and I think that's really, for the majority of us, probably a little bit more affordable. And I really wish that knives at that price point, when you start to get over $250, hell, even over $200, just have them going to a dealer or a vendor that does sizzle, because I think with sizzle, it makes it a little bit easier to choke down the price of the knife, because you can break it up over multiple months. So in the end, if I had to pick between the two, my budget in today's world, I would probably go with the larger production variant made by Bestech. It is an extremely well done knife. That is not to take away from the custom SG. I think I really love the details on here, the pivot collar. I do love the way that that full length backspacer looks with that, even though it does bite me on occasion. The acid etched stone washing on here, really nice. My dislikes, the heavy detent, lock bar access, and pocket clip. Those would be my main complaints on this particular model. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, do me a favor, leave a like. Consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. If you are subscribed, thank you for the support. I appreciate it. It means the world to me. Links are down in the description. Again, these weren't available at the time of the recording of this video, but I'll get you over to the Brass Brigade website where you can check all of the information about these knives out. And then you can sign up, I think, on there for any type of notifications or newsletters. So hopefully that helps you out. Also in those links, other recommended knives, tools and other things to hopefully help you on your way. Thanks again for the support. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.